Native American spirituality for the recovering Christian. Hey guys, welcome back. I know it's been a couple weeks since I've done one of these longer form videos, but I took a break to give myself some rest. But I thought I'd come back and do this video, mainly because my friend Jenny Brown suggested it a long time ago, and I want to make sure I do this for Jenny Brown. Native American religion. It is a broad topic, to say the least. It's like saying Christianity. And I don't mean that Native Americans are Christians. I'm saying when you say Christianity, there's Catholics, there's Baptists, there's Protestants, there's Mormons, there's all kinds of variations that believe in the Christ figure of Jeshua, or Jesus. In Native American religion, it is also an extremely broad category. You know, just like the religions of the world, the Asians, the Europeans, the Americans, Africans, there's a broad range of beliefs. And so the spiritual beliefs for Native Americans also have a broad range of beliefs. But most Native American religions have a common set of features. Number one, first and foremost, is there's a lack of distinction between the spiritual world and the natural world. The natural world is a part of God. It's a part of the spiritual world. It's all one. There's a certain oneness to it, which is why when you see them talking about, thanking the buffalo for the meat and the leather and because they see that relationship as part of that oneness and that spiritual commonality of God and the world being all one thing. And so there's no distinction between the spiritual world or the natural world. But there is an existence of some sort of creative deity, something larger than themselves that's part of their creation, that they give gratitude to, that they thank. So there is this natural oneness with a creator of some sort. What they do not have is a bunch of dogmas and rituals and things that you have to perform. There's very few specific ceremonies you must perform. When they do ceremonies, it's less about dogmatic ritual and more about that's their method of prayer. When they do ceremonies, it's about praying for rain, praying for food, praying for. So their rituals are less about having to adhere to a dogmatic set of rules, and more about working in the oneness of God with God, universe, consciousness. The great spirit, many of them would call it. The other thing is that much like Judaism, which thinks the Torah is a living document that is ever changeable, Native Americans are always open to changing their beliefs because they believe in the creative world and the oneness with the source, meaning that they're in this moment, things are happening, so things change as they go through time. That's why very few things are ever put down in writing, if ever, in Native American culture, because of the fact that if you put it down in writing, you would basically be anchoring yourself to that moment and being in the moment with the oneness of the Great Spirit. You would be ever changing, it would be ever moving, it would be ever evolving. And so the Native Americans are very much in the belief that living in the spiritual and living in the physical is the same thing. And it's much, and I believe this as well. I believe very much that the Father and I are one. I believe that. And the Native Americans pretty much believe the same thing, and they're grateful, and that's how they basically pray. They pray as if the world of spirits and deities is the same world as that of nature and of man. But whatever differences or separations may exist are frequently bridged because they understand that it is a changeable aspect, that there is always a back and forth. There's always that connection. And so that they believe wholeheartedly that, they live with and a part of the greater source, as it were. Unlike the concept of a heaven and an earth, most Americans' religions include some sort of divine creator, often referred to as the Great Spirit, but they do not think of it as a duality. They think of it more of a oneness, more of a God and I are one, or the Great Spirit and we are one, and we are living within, and the will of they ask and they get, they receive. Now, in some cases of Native American religion, it's the Great Spirit is a group of gods or a collection of spirits. In others, it's more of an impersonal force than an actual personal being. So it's like the Great Spirit has no form in some variations of Native American culture. In other aspects, the Great Spirit is a group of gods. And it comes back to this idea of, which branch of the spirituality are you a part of? They are devoid of objective rules or laws, dogmas, rituals. It just is not in their religion. It's just not there, because it really is about being in the now, being here and a part of and one with. It's their system of spirituality, the Native American system of spirituality, is much less rigid than Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, and many other schools of thought. There are many less rules, and more about being and living in unity with the Great Spirit, unity with God, and that unity, to me, is one of the common themes you find in many of the teachings that I've talked about so far. That oneness of God, that unity. Native Americans came by that belief in a very natural way. And coming by that belief in a very natural way, they came to the understanding that, they are one with this Great Spirit. There is no Bible, no Quran, no Vedas in the Native American religious system, because once again, that would lock them into a time, that would lock them into a moment, as opposed to living onward and freely and adapting and overcoming and evolving with the Great Spirit. In the Native American cultures, oral traditions are the way of teaching, and oral traditions, and also literally putting things into practice, putting beliefs into practice, and seeing how they play out. This is something that I am very, very supportive of. I think spirituality is a personal journey, and we each must put our own ideas, our own beliefs into practice and see the results. Because when somebody puts fear into practice, they get fearful things. Somebody puts love into practice, they get loving things. And you learn more from the action and the practice more than you could from a book, right? So it's like teaching your child morality, teaching your child to be a good person, teaching your child to care for other people. That's more of the way the Native Americans would do it. They would do it by practice. They would show. I remember when my friend Holly had her house hit by a tornado. I called up my son. I said, Holly's house was hit by a tornado. He says, when are you coming to get me? Because my son has been shown since he was a very young boy, when someone is in need and we have the ability to help, we help. And so I was so proud to hear him say, when are you coming to get me? Because that was, to me, was the greater spirituality that I've taught him, is that we are kind, caring, loving people, and we are a force of that love in this world. From the Native American perspective, that's exactly the kind of teachings they would teach their children. Be good, be kind, teach, and help each other. Native Americans believe that the only way to really learn is to participate, to be part of the practice, to actually do it. And because of that, there's little use for written texts at all, because the written text, because of the interpretation of those written texts, can eventually become the detriment to the belief that they have. And it's specifically because of this undefined structure and lack of written scriptures that Europeans discounted spiritual traditions of Native Americans, said they had no. They're heathens that had no spirituality, because they had no book. They had no set belief that they had to adhere to. But interestingly enough, because of the adaptability of the Native American spirituality, the Native Americans are far more comfortable taking things from other people's spirituality and making it part of their own and trying it out. And if it doesn't work, they don't keep it, right? But they're much more open to trying out different beliefs and exploring the results of those beliefs. The problem that I find with most religions in the world is they tell you have to adhere to these beliefs, and most of these beliefs are 2,000 years old. Of a time that before electricity, before the internet, before any of the things that we have now that make us our methods of communication, And so the ancient books that the other religions are leaning into have very little relevance to the world that we live in now. But if a Native American would say, well, this I can love in a new way. I do these videos. Why do I do these videos? Number one, I love putting this information out. Number two, I can put this information out to broaden the awareness of people all over the world, because it's going out on the internet, right? I do private sessions with people. I sometimes work 10, 12 hours a day doing those. I'm talking to people all over the world, I'm in Akron, Ohio. I talk to people in New Zealand, Australia, South America, the Eastern Bloc. I literally have been talking to people all over the world and finding this beautiful resonance with people all over the world. To me, that's the most important thing, is that I am able to communicate a loving way to be, but not asking them to take it. I love the fact that they're all exploring their own beliefs and they're having conversations and they're choosing their path. This is a Native American way. They do evolve as more information comes in, as more methods of communication come in. They evolve, and it's part of the concept. Now, when you look at Native American cultures, there are these stories that get passed down from generation to generation, which kind of tie into biblical stories. There's several versions of the Great Flood. The Hopis believe of Tawa, the sun spirit, destroying the existing world. They called it the third world. In a flood, few people survived by riding on reed boats. An Ottawa story claims that a man angered the sea god, triggering a flood that covered the world. And this man was saved by a goddess riding in a boat with pairs of surviving animals. So there's your Genesis and Noah, right? The Chippewa, that believed a powerful man killed an evil great serpent, triggering a mountain-covering flood, which people survived, boarding rafts and floating until the water subsided. Now, when you look at this, you're finding this biblical story of Noah being kind of echoed in Native American teachings. Now, what this gives us is the idea that probably somewhere in history there was some sort of great flood. Now, be it a flood that was regionalized or global, we don't know. But we know a great flood impacted big areas of land. And we also don't know whether the floods happened at the same time. So, something could have hit the ocean, sent tidal waves in multiple directions. There's many ways that this could have happened. But the fact that there is this oral tradition of these mountain-covering floods and boats with pairs of animals that tells you that in some level, there must have been some historical event that happened for it to be shown all over the world. But attempting to define Native American spirituality is really kind of futile because it's so adaptable, because it's so alive and in motion. It changed all over the Americas. Their beliefs change from tribe to tribe, from space to space. But it's these common themes that we find of unity with God, with the world, as one. There's no delineation between the spirit world and the physical world. The idea that you are learning as you go and you are adapting your beliefs to the results that you're getting is beautiful. It's a beautiful concept. Native Americans are a broad and varied people. You hear Native Americans, you hear the various tribes, you hear the various stories, but they live closer to the earth, and so they have a better relationship with the earth. They understand that the earth and the spirit are the same, so they treat the earth as if they would treat heaven or the spirit. I think all of the religions of the world could do well to take some of these aspects and incorporate it into their own beliefs. But many will not, because they are locked into ancient texts and ancient dogmas and ancient rituals that in most cases have no relevance today. So that's my thought on Native American religions and spirituality. I hope that makes sense and gives you a little bit broader perspective. But it always comes back down to that idea that spirituality is a personal journey. And Native Americans are following theirs and other people are following theirs. But I think that any spiritual journey, you should absolutely try things out and take what works. Take what gives you the loving world that you're trying to create. Because that is really what we all desire, to live in a loving world. And we don't want to live in a fearful, painful world. We want to live in a joyful, loving world. And that's what the Native Americans do, is they continue to do that. And by putting their beliefs into practice, they're raising better children, they're raising a better culture, and they're changing the world. So that's my thought on this. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.